Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 17 of the Bandwagon Hockey Podcast. It's go time. Pretty much every team has less than 10 games left in the season. There's the odd one with 11, but for the most part, it's 10 or less. We got about, what would that be, 3 weeks until the playoffs start. I think playoffs start like in and around the 15th, so not a lot of time for these sort of playoff races, division races, etc., to go down. And we're going to spend the first big chunk of the show talking about who's where in the standings, who's doing what on an individual basis, maybe some awards talk. But first thing, Ryan, how are you, my boy?
I am doing quite all right. As a Sens fan, it's been unfortunate to kind of watch them fall out of it here, but just as a bigger hockey fan in general, I think there's been a ton of fun storylines over the last kind of week or so, so I'm excited to sit down here and kind of discuss. How are you doing, my good sir?
I'm good. It's starting to get to that time of year where the sports world's getting a little bit overwhelming just because I follow most of them. So it's like we got the NFL draft coming up, which even though it's only a 2 or 3 day event, it's really like a months long event because unlike hockey and basketball, the draft doesn't take place right at the beginning of the offseason. It takes place after free agency. So there's like an entire month where all the free agents are signed and it's just mock drafts and draft pick trades and mock drafts and more mock drafts. So there's that in the news cycle. There's the playoff race in both leagues. Both drafts are going to be historic this year between the NBA and NHL. And there's this little thing called March Madness going on right now. So it's busy in the sports world. I wouldn't have it any other way. Probably the second busiest time of year besides like October when all 4 major North American sports are going full throttle. But no, I'm excited to talk some puck. So where do you want to start here? I mean, there's been a couple of playoff spots clinched. There's been some divisions clinched. There's been some milestones reached. Where do you want to start? Standings or accolades?
Yeah, let's I'll just rhyme off the few things that got clinched here real quickly, and then I think we can we'll get into a conversation just of where things are at, just more in general. So the Bruins clinched the Atlantic Division. I think that was 2 nights ago now. We all saw that coming. They'll eventually clinch the league here at some point. Just one more step along the way in a historic season for Boston. And then over the past 2 nights, the New Jersey Devils clinch for a playoff spot for the first time since 2018. And the Carolina Hurricanes are also headed back to the dance as expected. So a few spots locked up and confirmed.
I kind of want to talk about New Jersey for a minute. Does it not feel like they made the playoffs last year? Like it feels because they're so good. It feels like they had to have made it more recently than 2018 because they're so good this year.
It does feel like that, but that also just brings it back into perspective how big of a jump they took this year.
Yeah.
Like last year, they just didn't have Hughes and goaltending for big chunks of the year. And that was just, it sunk them. Yeah. And this year, everything is clicked.
But in my brain, I associate the New Jersey Devils. So they drafted 4th. They got Luke Hughes 2 years ago in 2021. And in my brain, they made like the wild card last year, got bounced, and now they're this like 100-point top of the league team with like just talent galore. But they drafted 2nd overall last draft. Like they got Simone Nemec. Like he's coming. He's on the way. He was drafted 2nd.
I think you think that because that's just how it's supposed to.
Yeah,
like that's how it's supposed to happen. A team is supposed to make this kind of borderline playoff push where they either just miss or sneak in and then kind of break out the next year, which it looks like as Ottawa fans, the Senators might
Buffalo too.
But the Devils they skipped that in between year. They went from garbage still to to a top contending team in the league, and it's really cool to see because they are a fun team to watch.
I wonder what the worst, or I guess maybe the best season by season improvement is, because like obviously like New Jersey drafted second last year. I can't remember exactly where they were in the standings. I want to say they were bottom 5 anyway, and this year they're top 5 team in the league. They're probably going to put up 110 points this year. I mean, that's a wild jump. I know when we were talking about Bednar last Tuesday, we were talking about how he was the coach of that historically bad Avalanche team that ended up drafting Makar 4th overall. But then that team made the playoffs the following season. So maybe they're there. But like season by season points, like standings points jump. Like New Jersey's season has got to be up there. I'm going to check where they were last year.
I honestly cannot think of any sort of comparable off the top of my head. It's kind of insane how much of a jump they've had. But when you have one of the, well, not one of, probably like the best under 22 player, and I think we'll get into this a little bit later too, in the league, back into your lineup for a full season. Like, it looked like he was going to have this type of season last year before he got hurt. And now he's just, I don't know, you insert him in and it makes all the difference. Like, he's borderline a heart level player, or will be at some point in his career. I don't really have any doubt about it. So you insert that and you finally get some good goaltending with Vanacek. I don't know, it's been the perfect like I said it before, it's been the perfect combination of things to go right for them. But you'd think another team kind of has that happened to them before, but I can't really think of it.
So this is just like last 10 years. Just if I'm forgetting someone, if I'm forgetting a team, my apologies, but these are the two teams that jump to the immediate forefront of my brain. So last year, New Jersey went 27, 46, and 9 for 63 points. This year, they're probably going to win another 6-7 games this year to put themselves around 110, 112, because they're at 100 right now. So that's a year over year improvement of almost 50 points. Yeah, in 2016-17, the Avalanche went 22, 56, and 4 for 48 standings points. The following season, they made the playoffs going 43, 30, and 9 for 95 points. That's a 47-point improvement. So
okay, I didn't know it was that big of a jump from one year to the next for the Avalanche. That's cool.
Yeah, so Colorado almost doubled their point total, but that's because they were historically bad. So they went from 48 to 95. That's almost double, so 47 points. New Jersey needs to win 5 of their next 9 games to match that jump, and with a couple overtime losses baked in there, I would think they get to 111, 112 pretty easily, unless they start resting guys once maybe they get locked into that 2-3 matchup with the Rangers. But no, like New Jersey's got to like they're got to be right there, at least in the last 10 years anyway. I can't think of a better year over year turnaround for a franchise.
Yeah, certainly not year over year. Like, we've seen it kind of happen in the same seasons. Obviously, everyone talks about the Blues a couple years ago being last in the NHL to go into the Cup in the same season. But I just can't really think of one team that's been so in the dumps to like talking about in the conversation for a division title.
Yeah,
like it's crazy.
It's pretty wild. So just to wrap up this little sort of topic, are there any teams on your radar that you could potentially see making such a significant jump for next year? Because someone's gonna get. Okay, let's put it this way. Pick a team where if they add Connor Bedard, you could see them making this kind of jump.
The Columbus Blue Jackets.
That's where I was gonna go as well.
Yeah.
They
without a doubt. I think they still have so much skill. Like, part of the reason that they were bad this year is that they just are bad, but part of it's also been unbelievable injuries.
Yeah.
And their young players look insane. Again, we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
And are only going to get better. So insert another top prospect into that situation, and maybe a generational one like Bedard, and I could see that team taking off, which is scary. It had already crazy difficult East Division or
And
conference.
And if you get some maybe an appearance from David Jiricek, who looked insane at the World Juniors because they drafted him 6th overall, I think people forget. Werenski has missed the entire season. Like, let's not forget that. I think he's played 13 games this season. That is while overpaid, he is like he's a top pair defenseman. Like, he's a legitimately awesome defenseman. He's not a number one. I wouldn't say he's a number one, but he's their best defenseman, and he's the best defenseman they've had in a little while. So definitely the team that I was about to say too before you stole it. Although I did ask the question, so fair.
I'll throw out a West team too. Not nearly to the extent, because I don't think they're not as bad, obviously. But the Canucks, like, obviously, I think if they get an impact player from the draft, like Bedard or even anybody else high up in the lineup, that can maybe make an impact right away. I think that's a team that, like, I've always thought that core kind of has, or not core now that they've started blowing it up, but I still think between Demko, if they keep him, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But let's see. Okay, I'll put it this way: between what they have currently, not taking into account any other major moves they may do before the draft or at the draft, I think that could be another situation.
I almost think Vancouver's too good to fit into that category.
That's what I was saying too, but I was just trying to pick one
Fair
team. I don't think anyone else
like
in the dump there could do it.
Yeah, like I think for it to really
maybe
apply,
Arizona?
I think it's to apply to this sort of like 2023 New Jersey Devils or 2018 Colorado. It has to be one of even Arizona's a bit too good. Like, it's got to be one of like Anaheim, Chicago, or San Jose, and none of those teams look like much is going to be coming for them. But I
don't see it for next year.
I kind of love Arizona right now, though. Like, Barrett Hayton on that top line with Schmaltz and Keller is sneaky sick.
So sick.
I don't want them to get Bedard, but I'd be so down for them to draft 4th and pick up Mitchkov. I've been preaching that for the last couple months on the pod. But no, let's circle back. Did you want to talk Canes? Like, we've known they were going to be making the playoffs and probably winning this division for a while. Kotkaniemi's been red hot since the Svechnikov injury. And even dating prior to the Svechnikov injury, Kotkaniemi has 17 points in his last 20 games. And considering, I believe the number was that he had 3 points in his first 20. He's at about half a point a game right now, 36 and 71. That's significant improvement from a guy that they have signed to an 8-year contract after that whole offer sheet fiasco. They need him to sort of like get going. Boston, I mean, they're just a train. They're easily going to set the record for wins in a season unless they just sit guys, because they can if they want. They need, I think the number is 63, so they need to win 7 of the next 10 games to do that. That's kind of light work for them. That's pretty much been their pace all year. Who else? Has anyone in the West clinched a spot yet? No. Vegas looks like they'll be close soon. Vegas has kind of pulled away with the Western Conference here. They've been red hot, won their last 4, 8-2 of their last 10. LA kind of right behind them. I wonder if they have any more matchups. They do. They have one more on April 6th, so that'll be one to have our eyes on. And then you've got Minnesota, Dallas, and Edmonton, the team with the 60-goal guy. Ryan, do you have thoughts on McDavid? Just absolutely, like, just rocketing past 50 into 60 goals in the span of like 2 weeks, scoring 10 goals in like 12 games.
Yeah, I don't know if I have any thoughts on it other than that it's McDavid. Like, it's hard to have new thoughts about the levels of dominance that he is taking his game to, other than I don't know how, like, I won't understand if it doesn't translate to playoff success this year, because we did see the start of them really putting it together last year, and McDavid is on a different level this year.
Yeah.
So I know they're not like a front runner in the like Western Conference standings in the regular season, but as long as McDavid is playing like that, I put them as close to a favorite against almost anybody.
This might be a little bit out of left field, but I don't want to say I have Edmonton in the same category as Tampa, but like Tampa has had a pretty shit regular season by their standards, and nobody's sort of batted an eye. Everybody's just like, they're going to play Toronto in the first round. They're going to, I don't know, that's a 50-50 series, and if they win that series, they'll play Boston, and they could just as easily beat Boston. Like, nobody would be surprised by a Tampa run despite their lack of regular season dominance. That's kind of how I see Edmonton.
Yeah. Well, like, just the fact that, like, sure, the top of the West has kind of picked it up a little bit recently, but a big storyline throughout this season is that the West is just incredibly weak compared to the East. And I don't know if that's affecting my thoughts of it down the stretch still, but as I see it, Colorado and Edmonton are probably the two to beat, and they're not up in the top.
That's what I'm saying.
It is 4 teams.
Yeah.
Like, it's still wide open in my opinion.
Like,
and this is kind of off topic, but just in summary, I think McDavid makes this team a cup contender right now because he's single-handedly contributing to 2 to 3 goals a night, and that could win you games, obviously.
And just, if you recall last year's playoffs, like he put up, what was it, 34 points in 16 playoff games or something crazy.
Yeah.
And I look at LA and I'm like, oh, I like that roster, but then you look at their net and it's Eunice Korpisalo and Phoenix Copley. Like, McDavid's gonna eat them alive. Yeah. And
he's also just decided that he's the best goal scorer in the league now.
Yeah, he's just sort of
scary.
Like started shooting, and now he's going to score 65 goals, and like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's insane.
It would not shock me if he gets to 70. He's at 60 now. He's got 10 games left.
He had like 6 games in a row where he scored 2 or more goals. Like, of course it's within reach.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
he could just go. He'll go put up like 5 goals in 2 games and be on pace for 70 to like by Thursday. Like,
yeah. He was like, Matthews 60 goals. Get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. That's like the funniest part is that it took forever to get a 60 goal guy. Matthews does it on like the last day, and McDavid does it with 2 weeks left in the season. No, so that was kind of another thing that I wanted to bring up. I know people were sort of talking like last year when Matthews was hitting 60 goals, people were talking, and especially with the Ovi chase going on right now with the Gretzky record for goals in a career. People were actually talking Matthews just because of the goal pace he's on at the start of the season, at the start of his career. And, like, McDavid's is better.
Yeah.
Like,
it just
let me just do some quick maths here. So, like, McDavid has...
I think Matthews' goal per game is pretty crazy, but I think, like, he had injury problems and stuff, right?
Okay, yeah. Matthews is better.
50-goal seasons.
I was getting ahead of myself.
Okay.
What'd you say?
They got to be close, right? Though, because Matthews was on pace to hit like 50 goal seasons earlier than he did, but he was dealing with injuries, right?
It wasn't injuries so much as it was like pandemic related.
Oh, right. Yeah,
so
right.
So in his second season, he did have injuries. He had 34 goals in 62 games. I think that's a 50 goal pace just by observation. The following year, he had 37 and 68, which again is probably not 50 goals, but it's close. And then 19-20, he had 47 and 70 before the COVID stoppage, which would have been a 50-goal season. In the bubble season in the North Division, he had 41 and 52. That's easily a 50-goal pace, probably 60. And then last year, he put up 60. This year, he's also had injuries with the hand and the wrist and everything. But in terms of like goal pace, Matthews has 295 in 472. McDavid has 299 and 560. So McDavid only has 4 more goals in about 60, 70 more games. So Matthews' pace is better. But if I had to pick one of them to, I don't know, like score 800 goals and like get into this same conversation that Ovi's in with Gretzky right now, like I'm picking McDavid because of health. And because he just showed that he can go supernova, and now he's probably going to be an annual 50, 60 goal guy. Whereas it seems like 60 goals, Matthews really had to work for it. It doesn't seem like McDavid had to work for it that hard.
let me ask you this.
Okay.
And this is, we're getting a little bit off topic here, but
It's
I kind
fine.
of enjoy it.
Yeah.
Do you think it's more likely we see McDavid without Draisaitl or Matthews without Marner?
McDavid without Draisaitl. I don't think either guy is staying in Edmonton
I
past
think so
their current
too.
contract. That's my reasoning.
Yeah.
I think Marner is a Leaf for life, and I don't think Toronto's going to let Matthews go anywhere.
I mean, I don't think that would affect McDavid's production much, but I think it may affect Matthews' production.
Oh yeah. That's the thing too, is if Marner left Toronto, it would have a bigger impact on Matthews than Draisaitl leaving Edmonton.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
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 That's like not even a debate I'm willing to have. Like that's just how it would be.
Yeah.
But no, but what's the craziest part though is that like I could see both guys being at like 800 goals by the time they're 36, 35.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're both arguably like right smack in the middle of their prime. Like one's 25, one's 26, and they're both almost at 300 goals.
It's just so hard because you basically have to average 50 goals a season, and like scoring has just not been, I don't know.
But it's so back right now. Scoring is so back.
Yeah, it's so back now, but they're already like what, 6 years into their careers?
But like 3 of those have been interrupted.
Yeah, I'm saying that affects the numbers big time.
But the same thing happened with Ovi though. Ovi had an entire lockout for his rookie year, and then he came out and scored 50 in his rookie year.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's Ovi, not every guy. I don't know.
But I think these guys could get there. I think so.
It's just for the next. What's McDavid at goals right now?
299, and he's 26.
So 50 goals a year for the next 10 years
would get him to 800.
Would get him to 800.
But like, you got to think he's scoring 60 again a couple more times.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, health permitting and everything like with career long
100 goals, it's so crazy.
Oh, it's ridiculous. But I don't know. I think you can probably pencil McDavid in for another couple of 60-goal seasons, maybe even a 70-goal season if he really wants it.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be a fun narrative to watch for the next, 10 years. I really hope Ovi passes Gretzky, though. But I don't know. That's something we can focus on for the next 2 or 3 seasons. Okay, let's move on. I think a fair sort of transition point. I know we talked before, but yesterday Ottawa took on the Devils, Senators versus Devils, and a lot of the talk surrounding the Sportsnet panel and the build-up to the game was how similar Jack Hughes and Tim Stützle have been in their D+3 and D+4 seasons. That's Jack Hughes' 4th season since his draft and Stützle's 3rd season since his draft. Both guys have reached superstar status that their draft pedigrees hinted at, especially after suboptimal, I would say, rookie seasons out of both guys that had maybe some fan bases a little bit worried about where they would end up in their career. But any doubt, I think, has been completely washed away. Tim Stützle is currently tied for 18th in league scoring with William Nylander. His 8-year extension has not yet kicked in. He has 35 goals and 46 assists for 81 points. And Jack Hughes has 40 goals and 46 assists for 86 points. And it's kind of funny because we were just talking about McDavid and Matthews, and it's almost weird talking about those 2 guys as not being youngsters anymore, which they aren't, because 26 and 25 is not young in the 2023 NHL. And now we can sort of shift our attention to Hughes and Stützle, who are, I think, without a legitimately great argument, the 2 best under 22 players in the NHL. And they're both going sort of head-to-head in terms of production this season. And it's kind of incredible to see.
Yeah, one day we're going to see an Eastern Conference final that's Stützle versus Hughes head-to-head, and it's going to be electric.
Yeah.
both these guys are just so much fun to watch. Like Timmy didn't have his best game the other night, but just every time I watch Hughes, it blows me away in the same way that Timmy does. And it's hard to put into words how much more fun they are to watch than like 95 or more percent of the league.
Yeah.
Like just the dynamic play in how they work around the ice. It's just like the puck control and possession is the part that from Stützle specifically that drives me like bonkers thinking about, because how can like a 21-year-old come into the league and just keep the puck? Like he literally just dipsy doodles around the whole ice, and then you see Hughes do the same thing. And I guess my whole point here of this rant is that it's crazy that they're doing this at like 20 and 21 years old. Like we never used to see, I don't know, younger players do this, but it's now consistently like 5-7 years going back now that it's like 22 and under players making huge impacts.
It's at the point where I would say ever since McDavid, like 8 years ago, you now expect your top 5 picks to be sort of like really good to great NHL players by the time they're 22. And I think that's why a lot of people were worried about Jack Hughes after his second season, because he just wasn't that good yet. And even Tim Stützle has had so many flaws in his game after even last season. He started to show flashes at the end of last year, but for the most part, I think people were expecting more of a breakout, unfairly so. And now, like at 22 years old for Jack Hughes and 21 years old for Tim Stützle, both guys have legitimately inserted themselves into like 90-point, 40+ goal territory. And that's just like straight up, that's superstar level. Like
they're part of the conversation of best players in the league. Like it's not out of the question. Like Hughes right now is 10th in points per game, and Stützle is 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's we're not picking at straws here, saying they're superstars. Like they're here at 21 years old, and it's absurd.
Okay, I want to just like quickly, I just want to pick at some names here and ask you like if you think they're better than them right now. Okay, like just to sort of try to ballpark where these two guys rank in the league among centers. Okay, so obviously they're not touching McDavid, they're not touching Matthews, they're not touching Draisaitl, and they're not touching McKinnon. So just leave those top 4 out of it. Elias Pettersson, are you taking Jack Hughes or Tim Stützle over Elias Pettersson this season? And if you need a reminder on how Elias Pettersson is doing this year, he's at 91 points, 33 goals, 58 assists, and it's kind of his insertion into superstar status as well, because he hadn't reached these levels yet.
Yeah, this season specifically, I don't know if I'm taking Stützle, maybe Hughes, but like if we're just talking this season, obviously like the situation is so different.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm obviously would be taking them because they're younger, but if you're asking me this season specifically, Pettersson is just absurd.
Yeah,
on a bad team. So it's hard to take either of those two over him in this season specifically.
Tage Thompson.
Ooh,
these are tough.
That is a tough one. I think him and Hughes would be head to head. I think Stützle is right below.
I think so too. I would probably. I'm taking Hughes over Tage this year though.
Yeah, I don't know. 50 goal scorer.
He's at 44. He's at
right?
44.
Yeah.
He might not. He's slowed down a ton.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be close.
Okay.
I think those two are close for this season.
Next up, we got. Sorry, one sec. Sorry, I haven't seen the dog all weekend, and he just came into my room, and he's about to get mad at me because I'm not excited enough to say hi to him. I would Ryan Nugent Hopkins is not a center, so we'll skip him. No. Sidney Crosby.
Oh my god. I think I'm taking both ahead of him.
Really?
I think
Oh,
so for this season.
I'm taking
Yeah,
I'm
I think I
taking
am.
I'm taking Crosby ahead of Stützle for this season. But I'm taking Hughes over Crosby.
Yeah, that was so close, but I
That
think
one
I'm
is so
feeling it.
close. Okay, I got two more. I got two more.
Okay.
Braden Point. Reminder, he has 45 goals
Oh,
this season. Like the most underrated 50 goal scorer will be Braden Point this season.
oh, I love Braden Point so much.
Yeah.
Oh, that one is so
It's
hard.
so hard. Like they're all I would put the three of them in the exact same tier.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm probably taking. Oh my God, Hughes. I think I'm probably going Hughes one, but like by the slightest of margins, and then Point and Stützle.
Okay, last one. Zibanejad.
Oh, I'm taking Hughes and Stützle.
Both guys. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. It it's so weird because I just don't think of Hughes and Stützle in that stratosphere. But like you kind of have to start.
not yet.
You have to start.
Yeah, you have to.
It's where they are, and it's just everybody's got to accept it. Like I just don't associate those two players with the levels of a Braden Point. Um,
Like I don't have the updated list in front of me, but I think there was a photo circulating Twitter about a week ago. It was like Tim Stützle's on pace for the best age 20 Okay, so when I say age 20, I mean start the season as 20 years old.
yep.
Um, Tim Stützle is on pace to have the third best 20-year-old season ever, only behind Connor McDavid and Alex Ovechkin.
Is that in the cap era?
Maybe
That's
there might be some sort of restriction on it. I see. This is why I didn't want to completely quote it because I saw it so long ago. But he's on pace for like the third highest, and I know he was only behind McDavid and Ovechkin.
is that
So
just
maybe it was past like 30 years or 20 years or something. But
is that just straight points?
yeah,
Because
I think it was points.
okay, because Crosby had an injury in his age 20 season, so he only got to
Yeah,
72 points in 53 games. So I'm gonna say that
there's
that
gonna be
is
cases like that where it's flawed.
I'm gonna say that that's points since the cap era because there's no way Stützle's having a better age 20 season than Wayne Gretzky.
I'm trying to scroll so far back now.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and guess that it's points in a season, and it's under the assumption that it's since the beginning of the cap era or like since 2000 or something because
Okay. Wow, you just nailed
you
that.
got it. Okay.
Yeah. Best year 20 seasons since the year 2000. And Stützle is on pace for the third most points in a year 20 season since 2000.
Okay.
So yeah, it
So
was exactly what you thought it was.
maybe we'll have to clip that. That was good. Okay. Let's move on. Where do you want to go from here? We should briefly mention Erik Karlsson hit the 90-point plateau, and we were talking about how he's going to have to go on a little bit of a run here to get to 100 points. And it seems that way because there's only 9 games left. But if he only hits 100 points, it would mean he have to slow down because he's at 90 points in like 73 games.
Yeah, his current pace has him there.
Easily.
And I really badly want to see it. Like,
Yeah.
the San Jose Sharks should be feeding him down the stretch here. They got nothing else to play for.
Yeah.
Feed this guy. Put him out on every power play.
I think
Put
they
him
already
at the
do.
front of the net.
I think they already do.
Like, I'm sure they do, but like every situation where this man can get a point, you put him on.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to see him get to 100 points because it could have been Yossi last year, and I think he would have been the first guy since like was it Leach? Brian Leach was the last one to get to 100 points.
Yeah.
So I'm happy. It'll hopefully likely be Erik Karlsson because he's sort of the catalyst for this new age of defensemen, and it'd be
Oh, I
so
love it.
perfect for him to be the guy to get to 100 points before all of the Makars and the Foxes and the Quinn Hugheses after people assumed his career was basically dead.
I love it so much to
Yeah.
just like have a revitalizing season where you're the first to do this in so long.
Yeah.
But you're in your 30s, coming off major injuries. Everyone wrote you off on a terrible team.
Yeah.
You're like, nah, I'm gonna have a career year, the best point year for a defenseman in over 30 years. Like, it's just like completely
Storybook
prove
stuff.
everyone wrong.
It's
Yeah,
storybook stuff.
it's absurd, and I love it because EK is the best,
Yeah.
and I love him as a player. So
All right,
great to see.
let's move on. Two significant storylines sort of going on this week. There's the whole Pride Night situation, and then there's also the best on best discussions stemming from the World Baseball Classic. Let's start with the Pride Night stuff and then move into the WBC best on best stuff to wrap up the show on a good note.
Sure.
Do you want to give a little brief synopsis on what's been going on with the Pride jerseys and everything?
Yeah, so essentially over the last few weeks, teams have been holding their annual Pride Night, celebrating the LGBT community in hockey, and there's been a few players and a few organizations who have opted out of wearing the jerseys in warm-up for different reasons. Some are claiming religious beliefs, some are claiming Russian threat.
Yep.
So it's kind of hard to watch this unfold across the league. What are your thoughts on it?
I think that Ivan Provorov not wearing the jersey, receiving no repercussions whatsoever, and citing the fact that he is, excuse me if I get this wrong, Russian Orthodox, something along those lines. And quite frankly, it kind of didn't have anything to do with the Russian threats. I think it was very religion based for him, at least from what I read. He very much cited his religion. I think that opened the door to any and every player who is homophobic, transphobic, anything phobic to just opt out of whatever they don't want to do and just say, oh, it's because there's no homosexuality or transsexuals or anything in the Bible. And this is the only sport where you get this shit, right? Like, you don't get this in any other sport. And it's just so exhausting because, again, like, this is now stemming back however many months since Provorov did it. And it was it was a pretty big thing and people were pissed. And then a couple weeks later, who did it next? Do you remember who did it next?
It's done exactly what people were afraid it was going to do. Literally exactly what you said. Provorov doing it gave other people who kind of have the same hateful beliefs a space to feel safe, where that's exactly what the opposite of
the
what
exact
you're trying
opposite.
to do.
Yeah.
It's literally the opposite. Like, now you've given these people who have these hateful beliefs space to feel safe in the hockey community and say, no, I'm not doing this for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not including this community because of these beliefs. And the league has said that's okay.
Which sucks because if
Yeah.
you're going to, I saw this tweet. I think it was very irony based, but I was like, straight up, this should be the case. If you're going to cite the fact that you're Catholic or Christian or whatever, and that's why you're not going to wear a Pride jersey, why are you playing hockey games on Sundays?
Yeah.
Don't play hockey on Sundays. Like, go away.
I don't know.
If you're going to take it that seriously and pick and choose where you want to see the Bible, like, don't play on Sundays. Yeah. Like,
we don't have to get too far into the religion aspect of it either, but I don't want to speak for you, but like, I was in the Catholic system my entire schooling, up until university at least, and I don't know, I never really was experienced or exposed to these so-called beliefs.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't know where they come from. I don't know why they're so significant in their, literally, what belief? Like, what are you citing?
Yeah.
It doesn't make
no,
any
but
sense
so
to
here's
me.
the thing is the Bible, all of this crap, the Bible isn't actually like anti homosexuality. It's not anti
Yeah,
LGBTQ plus
it's
community. It just
it's
doesn't
it's
reference
more
it.
so.
It just doesn't
Well,
reference it existing.
I think it's more so against any sort of um like sexual activity that doesn't relate to procreation.
Yeah.
I think that's where it stems from, right?
Yeah. But it's
But like again, we don't have to go too far into this. It's just the fact that players are feeling safe in saying, "I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to include this community." Like literally, Eric Stahl? Sorry, he wore it last year
so
for the Canadiens.
this is the thing I wanted to get to is so
Yeah.
Provorov didn't wear the jersey and cited religious beliefs. I believe other Russian players also did it, but it was because of like threat to families because there's like strict anti-LGBTQ community in Russia.
Yeah. So,
but then Reimer a couple months later is like, "Oh, I'm Catholic and the Bible doesn't support it, so I'm not going to wear it." And the next week, you get the Stahl brothers coming out and saying, "Oh, we're not going to wear it either for the same reason." And it really speaks to how cowardly these guys are. They're just waiting for someone else to do it first so then it doesn't look as bad on them because Eric Stahl literally wore his jersey 2 years ago.
yeah, and then like there's photo evidence of him wearing it too, and afterwards he was like, "Nah,
Yeah,
he
denies
he's so
it.
scared to be like associated with those sort of beliefs that it's just horrendous.
It's a joke. Like
the fact that the fact that there isn't any sort of consequence to just I don't know it blows my mind how they can I don't know.
It blows my mind how like the players feel so uncomfortable with wearing a rainbow jersey.
Yeah,
like it's almost as though they
like,
think that
are you that insecure?
Yeah.
that you cannot wear a rainbow?
Yeah.
And like separate. I don't know.
It's as though they think that as soon as they put on a rainbow jersey, like they have to be gay. And it's like, yeah, okay, whatever, but like that's not how it works. Like
you're wearing St. Patty's Day jerseys, you don't have to be Irish.
Yeah, I don't know.
Calm down. I don't know.
It's just so homophobic and freaking archaic. And I don't know. This is probably not on topic, but like Sportsnet had Brian Burke on their broadcast yesterday to like condemn all of the jersey refusals, or I don't even know what to call it. Like basically to condemn and say like, "Oh, we accept everyone." And I saw right through that. Like that was like you're bringing.
Well, before you go too far on that one, he does have a gay son, and he's very involved. In those sort of initiatives. So I think like he does come from a good place.
I thought it was just Sportsnet grabbing the oldest dinosaur they can find and bringing him. Okay, never mind then.
No, there was purpose behind that.
Yeah, I thought it was like, remember when Chicago had like 4 women go up with Stan Bowman to make their draft pick after the whole.
No, I completely understand what it looks like, but it's not that.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Just for some context.
Okay. Never mind then. Apologies to Sportsnet. No, but it's just such an exhausting topic, and it's every month there's something, and it's just this league sucks, dude. It really sucks.
Well, every like couple weeks or month, like exactly what you said. There's another reason that gives you. There's another thing that comes out that gives you a reason to be disappointed in hockey, and that really sucks. Like that speaks a lot to the community that it's fostered, and I don't know, it needs to go a long way to change.
The perfect tweet, and we'll wrap up on this, was I think it was Mark Lazarus talking about it. He's very involved with like social issues in hockey and stuff, and he sort of tweeted. He wrote an article about like, why is this such an issue? Why does this keep coming up? Why is the system failing hockey so much? And Dom Luszczyzn subtweeted and was like, "Hey Mark, is it because the league is a fucking train wreck?" And then that was just the tweet, and it got so many likes, and I was like, "Yeah, that's kind of sums it up. Like the league it's a mess." And for other reasons, a little bit more positive, I'd say, but still really shitty. McDavid came out the other day. A lot of McDavid this pod. McDavid came out the other day and talked about how. It's a real shame that the NHL hasn't been able to have, or hockey hasn't been able to have best on best in literally a decade. We have never seen Connor McDavid in a Canada jersey in best on best hockey, which He's 26 years old.
We have not seen McDavid and Crosby together, and we have not seen McDavid versus Matthews.
We haven't seen Matthews and Kane together. And it's literally at a point now where Patrick Kane wouldn't even make Team USA. He probably would because of like legacy, but like we're just missing out on an era. And like if we wait too much longer,
we haven't really gotten to see physically how the US would stand up against a Canadian team now. Like I think we all assume that they've closed the gap.
Yeah,
but I would love to see
we don't know. It's all theoretical right now.
Yeah, on an international stage.
No, and so the reason this discourse has become has sort of happened is because in baseball they do this thing called the World Baseball Classic, which is basically what the World Cup of hockey is trying to be but can't because the NHL sucks. And so the WBC has been going on since I think 2006, and they've had, I want to say 5 tournaments. So it was 2006, 2009, 2013, 2017, and then it would have been 2021, but it was 2023 because of the pandemic. And the next one's going to be in 2026. And it's basically an MLB sanctioned event where they have, this year it was 20 teams. Previously it was 16. And it's a World Cup of baseball. It's the World Baseball Classic. And in the gold medal game, it was Japan versus the Team USA. And just to sort of hockeyify this a little bit for those who aren't sure, Team Japan was basically if you took a KHL All-Star team plus, I don't know, Ovechkin and Kaprizov, like the best Russian players from the NHL, and put them with the KHL All-Star team and put it up against Team Canada. And that was the gold medal game. And the final at-bat was Shohei Ohtani, the best baseball player of all time, versus Mike Trout, the best ball player of this generation. And they're also teammates. So it'd be, I don't know. It was Crosby versus Ovechkin in a gold medal game. Like, that's what it was. And it was the coolest moment I've ever experienced as a baseball fan. And I was at home watching it from behind because I wasn't able to watch it live. And my heart was pounding watching the at-bat. Like, it was insane. And that happening in the same year that the NHL was like supposed to have a World Cup and just didn't is like, it's got to be so discouraging for hockey players.
Yeah, as someone who cares very little about baseball, I had never heard about the World Baseball Classic, and I will give that sport very little of my time during its regular season. And that's nothing against it. It's just that I don't know. It's not for me. And this sport was all over my social media. Okay. Like, that moment was in every interaction, like all over the place. McDavid talked about it in a media scrum. He brought it up.
It's like after a practice.
Himself. So yeah, like everybody was talking about this moment. And those are moments that hockey never has.
Yep.
And it sucks. Like, baseball, the fact that I know nothing about this tournament at all, but the fact that you just said like they increased it from 16 to 20, like they are actively, I don't know, doing more to get more countries on the biggest stage and committing to doing that every, 4 years?
I think it's going to be every 3 from here on.
Okay.
Which I love. Yeah, every 4 is too long.
Without knowing anything about it, I love the commitment by the MLB to doing that every, 3-4 years, and the commitment to getting so many teams on that stage too. It's something I wish we could see from the hockey world, but I don't know.
They just keep tripping over themselves. I mean,
yeah,
like, I don't know.
We were getting so close to getting over the issue of the owners being like a big pain in the ass, saying we don't want to do it. Like, I think the players were probably getting close to winning that battle, but now the whole Russian player situation is throwing another wrench in it.
Yep.
And looks like we may not even get it till like 2025 or 2026.
Because all the European nations don't want to play against Russia.
Yeah, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why the answer can't be just move on and plan with them not in the tournament.
Yeah, I don't know. Basically though, like the WBC wasn't a massive thing. Like it's one of those things where when it's on, it's big, but it's not talked about.
Yeah.
The 2026 WBC is going to be so huge because of the success of this tournament. And the reason for the lack of success previously is because the big names were too cool for it, because it's in March and it would disrupt their preseason. And players sort of realize, like, wait a second, maybe playing in a best on best baseball tournament is better than taking exhibition at-bats in Florida. And so then all these studs moved over, and all of a sudden all these eyeballs were attracted to the sport. And I think 2026 is going to be massive. And obviously the World Cup is in its own stratosphere, but I think in the next, 10 years, maybe 2 or 3 WBCs, this tournament is going to be one of the biggest tournaments in the world. And which says a lot, because baseball is very much not yet a global sport. It's very pick and choose your countries in the same way hockey is. But I think baseball is going to explode in the same way basketball has in the last 10 years.
Just a pure out of curiosity, out of those 20 teams, how many do you think realistically could win it?
5. Same as hockey.
Okay, so it's similar to hockey.
It's the same as hockey. And it's all like North American teams and Japan. Those were all the teams that had chance. It was the USA, it was the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, which is South America, I guess, and then Japan. And then you could toss Cuba in there. They had a good run. Mexico was good. So like those are your Czech Republic and Slovakia that could go on a run with the right group and the right sort of path. But it was very much like one of these 5 teams are going to win the championship.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Cool.
It was there's a lot of similarities between international hockey and international baseball. And this past month, baseball did a lot more for itself than hockey has done in the last 9 years. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, there's been a ton of improvements to the sport of baseball over the last couple of months.
That too.
We have not really gotten that in hockey, which sucks, but can be another conversation for another day.
Yeah. Hopefully we get some best on best before Sidney Crosby and Alexander Ovechkin and Patrick Kane and all those guys retire while this new era are now in their prime. All right, Ryan, do you got anything else that you want to wrap up the pod on?
I think the only last thing I want to spend like 10 seconds on, literally just bringing up, is the Kent Johnson Michigan, because I alluded to it earlier.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, go watch it, because this is one of the coolest Michigans you'll see. He just drags it through his legs behind the back of the net and then flawlessly, like, I think there's been a few that Zegras have done that really look flawless. Like, it was in that same kind of vein. But just doing the between the legs to himself right beforehand made it like extra cool. I just thought it's still one of the coolest plays in the game for me, and I love that we're seeing it more. Ken
Johnson is super like underratedly a big reason why I think Columbus could explode in the next year or two. Like I have him as like his play style in like a similar category as Zegras, in the sense that I could see them like putting up 100 points someday, because Ken Johnson is such a sick passer. I could see it someday. And I don't think Ken Johnson gets enough attention as a part of the Columbus core, but like I think as one of the young players in the league, like I think he's going to be such a sick player.
Just in general, I think Columbus is a sleeping giant.
Yeah, I think so too.
They're going to wake up here in the next couple of years, and it's going to be scary.
Especially if they pick up one of these like top 4 guys in this coming draft. It could get really nice in Ohio soon.
Yeah.
All right, nothing else. Let's hit that outro. This is episode 17. Episode 18 going to be coming at you on Tuesday. A lot going on. More playoff race action. Getting exciting in the hockey world.
It's winding down.
It's winding up.